It's the Stretch Four podcast, your weekly look at hoops, hip hop culture, and life from me, Aaron Herzog.
And me, Keenan Willis. What is up?
I'll tell you what's up, Keenan. I know I've been threatening this for a long time, and it's one of my main threats, really, in life. Okay, but I want to
Mhm.
write more. Okay, and if you're
Okay,
listening,
okay.
if you're listening to this Stretch Four podcast right now, I want to write more for you. I want to write more hoops. I want to write more hip hop. I want to write more culture. I want to write more life. Maybe not as much that one, but a little bit. And I want to do it on the Stretch for Pod Substack. And here's what I want. I want you, if you're listening to this, to suggest things that you want me and Keenan to write about, topics going on during the week,
Mm.
questions that you have for us. That's where we can get into life. Ask us for advice. Um, as we said at the end of last episodes, we're undefeated when it comes to vibes. Ask us for vibe checks on stuff.
100%.
We'll give it to you at Stretch for Pod Substack, which you can find the link in the description of this episode. You tell us what to write. You can subscribe. It's free. We're not asking you to pay us money yet. Yet. And maybe if you get in early, you won't ever have to pay us money. So
There it is.
here's
There it
how we
is.
want you to do it. If you're listening to this show on Spotify, I'm going to put a little poll up. You can ask us a question, suggest a topic there, or you can email us at stretch4pod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram, or give us a 5-star review with a question in it, and we're
Oh,
guaranteed to write a piece if
jumps
you
right up to the
ask a
top.
question with a 5-star review on, Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. So if you really want, to signal boost and ask us a question about hoops, hip hop culture, or life, do it there, and we'll give you the answer.
That'll jump you right to the top.
Oh, right to the top. Yeah. And it'll get our Substack going. It'll get our Twitter fingers typing, but Substack. It doesn't sound as nice. Substack. But that's the business announcement that I wanted to get in for the week,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a call to action for our listeners, and a call to action for the Philadelphia 76ers post draft. We got a lot of
Mhm.
NBA stuff we want to talk about this week. Keenan, do you want to talk
Yeah.
general NBA first, or do you want to talk Sixers first? Which is going to rile you up more?
Let's talk Sixers first. Let's get the Sixers out of the way.
Great. Call call to action is a good transition there,
Yeah.
because the Sixers, in what is the 10th straight most important offseason of the franchise's history, off to what many think is a little bit of a slow start. A lot of people making fun of Daryl Morey for not doing anything in the draft, and to these people, or pre-draft, and to these people, I say, you don't know ball, because you clearly don't know the rules of the NBA, because
There's only so much you can do.
there's only so much. Yeah, this you could make a trade if you want, but the
Mhm.
Sixers were handcuffed. They weren't able to trade their draft pick before the draft. They would have Any trade that involved their 16th pick would have had to come after the pick they
Yeah.
would have had, because they didn't have a first round pick last year. And free agency doesn't start until Saturday/Sunday. So
Right.
what do you want Daryl Morey to
So
do?
what is there to
Trade
do?
trade uh Joel Embiid, the only player under contract currently, or Paul Reed? I guess people want him to trade Paul Reed, but I think a lot of people are frustrated. They saw some moves being made by other teams, some rivals,
Yeah.
that we'll get into later, and they wanted the Sixers to act. And we say the time for action is now. They drafted 2 players. They signed 3 or 4 more.
Yeah. Four, I think. I think we're all loaded in terms of roster spots, technically.
How you feeling, Keenan?
Minus Turk.
Yeah, Keenan, you told me before the draft you thought the move, your draft night prediction was going to be a move for Brandon Ingram, like we talked about last week. That
Yeah.
didn't happen. And it doesn't look like the
Yeah.
six. It hasn't happened yet. Yeah, that is true. Pelicans just traded for DeJounte Murray
Mhm.
right before we started recording this episode. So it doesn't seem like Brandon Ingram's days in New Orleans are long for this world.
No, no. Neither him nor I mean maybe it's him, maybe it's CJ. But yeah, they got a little too much money on the books right now. We need to get rid of some of that.
How do you feel about what the Sixers did on draft night? Let's start there.
I mean, I feel fine about it. I'd be lying if I said I was like thrilled by Jared McCain, but I have no problems with Jared McCain at all. I think if he fills a need,
I think
it's
that's the
not the it's not the best fit, but it's like it fills the need.
I think that's the proper take, and I think that's the problem with this podcast. We don't have enough conflict. We don't disagree enough. I mean, he's the safe pick. He's not an exciting pick.
Yeah,
He's got the skill of being a shooter. The fit with Maxey isn't wonderful, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're two small guards.
right.
I think it's an interesting fit with Maxey offensively. I texted you this on draft night. They can both
Yeah,
play on ball or off. They're both good shooters. Um, McCain is good in the pick and roll. That's some interesting options there. But yeah,
both
defense.
very effective in the paint.
Yeah, uh-huh. And also just personality wise, they've just got a couple of smile boys in the back.
The happiest backcourt in the league. Yeah.
Happy as yeah, uh-huh. So if you want some feel good vibes, go to the Sixers backcourt. But yeah, not a lot of people saying that they wish they would have took Connect there. I
No,
can't.
no,
You don't like it? Okay.
no.
They
I
they
think they
say
made the
like,
right choice between the two of them.
a lot of people saying just because Connect is 23 years old that he's more capable of stepping in and contributing right away. I don't know if that's true.
I would argue we know more of what his ceiling is
Yeah,
because he's a little older. Also, he's a traffic cone on defense. So like
defensively, yeah.
he's just gonna get hunted. So I don't yeah. I don't think it was plus I'm also off Tennessee guys for a while.
Oh, yeah, that is true. That
Let's
is a
just
point I
let's
have not heard made yet.
like let's just we just purged ourselves of a Tennessee issue.
Yeah,
Let's not bring in another one.
yeah. If, Peyton Manning comes knocking, no thanks. T. Martin, no thank you. Charlie Garner, loved you when you were an Eagle, but don't try to come back.
I
Uh,
mean, if Candace wanted to come, if Shamika
yeah,
Holdsclaw wanted to come,
Miko Holds
I'll take
clock.
y'all.
Yeah, you got to get
But that's
that
about it.
that Philly W team going.
Yeah, yeah. But that's about it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
not too
I don't.
excited. I think I texted you this too. He's certainly posting a lot of stuff in Sixers gear.
Yeah,
They're letting him do his TikToks. Now I sound old. Now I sound the oldest I've ever sounded. They're letting him
doing the
do his
ticks and the
yeah,
talks,
they're letting him do his TikToks in his Sixers jersey, in his number 20 Markel Fultz jersey.
or Eric Snow,
Yeah, I guess.
or yeah, there have been plenty of good 20s. Doug Collins wore 20.
You
You
know,
know, we got some positive 20s. It's not just the bad ones. Lou
hey,
Amundsen,
oh yeah, can't forget Big Lou.
Jody Meat.
But
But
like
yeah.
that makes me think they're not going to trade him.
But yeah, I mean, Daryl has said, I don't want to put pressure on him, but I think he's going to be a big part of the team for a while. So
Yeah.
he came out of the gates kind of saying he's not going anywhere.
But we all know that Daryl Morey is a liar.
Well, he's a liar, yeah. So
So who can trust what that man says? Hey, I really wanted him to be part of the team for a long time, but when an opportunity like this comes around, you just can't pass it up. To bring in a player such as I'm trying to think of somebody funny that they would trade for.
Players such as CJ McCollum.
Yeah, to bring a player such as CJ McCollum home, you have to
Gosh.
get rid of a guy who's probably going to be CJ McCollum for the next
Right. Right.
12 years and who isn't 35 years old.
Gosh. Yeah, it's do you think he actually believes those things when he says them?
I
Because in my
think
mind, I think he does. There's
maybe,
part of me that wants to believe that.
but it's got to be like that's like a certain level of like I don't know, is it naive or is it stupidity or you know what I mean? Like because it seems like the right thing. It's like a guy who like tells a woman he loves her because he thinks the woman wants to hear that she loves her, that he loves her, but he doesn't really mean it, and he's just doing long-term damage instead of just being truthful.
So a buddy of mine has floated an idea behind me, and I'm going to preface this with it's not necessarily PC, but I feel like I can say this um, as part of um, the neurodivergent community. Um, the theory that's been floated in me is that it's just Daryl Morey is autistic, uh, and that very much he means what he says in the moment, and then an opportunity presents itself, and it's like, well, logically, that's the
It's
right decision,
logic,
so I'm just
yeah.
going to make that decision without
And
any, you know, without any conscious of how that's going to affect people emotionally or how that's going
yeah,
to affect relationships.
I don't think that's un-PC, you know? I think it's like
Right.
I think
Yeah.
it's
And yeah.
pretty, you know, with you know, autism being a spectrum, there are lots of points on that spectrum and
Yeah,
like that is
exactly.
definitely what someone who just like lets logic makes logic rule their decisions is like
Yeah.
it's one point on a thing, you know what I mean? It's like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. And I think through that lens, a lot of his decisions make sense. A lot of the
he's also
drama that
hyper
sometimes comes
fixated.
around him.
He gets hyper fixated on the same like players or types of
Yeah,
players or like things that worked for him in the past, you know?
right, right. So,
The man
I
loves
think
numbers. The man
I
loves a
think
number.
there's some logic to what he's doing. I mean, to make a statement, a correct statement, um, you know, in support of Taiwan, I think, may have just taken a lack of caring
Yeah.
what that might have done. So
Yeah,
I
lack of
think this,
thinking
I think,
about the thinking about what might happen.
yeah, I think there's some logic to it. And shout out my fellow neurodivergent buddy. Um, I think there's some potential truth to that. I don't want to diagnose from afar, but just looking at Daryl from that lens, I think I give him a little more grace every once in a while.
You know, this is a little it's a little off main topic, but a little on side topic, which is very on overall topic of stretch four, but like I feel like it's okay to talk about things that are like traits of like you know what I mean like oh this is a trait that many neurodivergent people share and you could say that someone is exhibiting those traits without like without diagnosing them or
Yeah,
stigmatizing it as well because it's just like
right.
I, I feel like within a few years there's going to be a different way that people talk about this, you know, because like right now
Yeah,
even the term like neurodivergent means like I don't know, divergent sounds like, ooh, you're different, you know?
right, 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 right. Yeah,
And I feel like the more we learn about this and the more research that's done, it's just going to be like a thing where like, oh, every brain is different, you know, like the way
right.
that like every brain like processes things is different and there are like a
Yeah,
lot of like similar traits that people hold, but there's no just like normal brain and we don't have to say that like, you know, that like
right,
oh this is normal and then like oh people who think this or like process things this way are like in some other subset, you know.
right,
I think it's
right. And
like going to continually evolve.
it's weird because the control group is, like, I think, appropriately named as neurotypical. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
like it's not like neurocorrect. It's just that's what typically happens.
And how much how much of like what we know or think about, or like, how much research is skewed by people who are like socialized to mask
Right,
tendencies. You know what I mean?
right,
Like
right.
socialized to hide those things because they think of it as weird or different or something like that. So their brains like actually do process or work like that or think that way, but then they say like no and they correct it. And it's
Right.
like, causing them that's like what causes a lot of like fatigue, like mental fatigue in people because they're like constantly like trying to go against that.
Yeah, yeah, and that takes an enormous amount of emotional bandwidth, really even just like physical energy as well throughout the day, depending on um, your situation. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think like to label anything with humans typical is like kind of I don't know, that seems kind of naive because of like how many different how many different factors go into like your personality and your brain and the way you like work things and like there
True.
are general like subsets and categories that like a lot of people like fall into or like general things people have in common, but when you get down to like the total like minute details of everything, like the
Oh,
fuck out of here with typical, you know?
we're all nuts. Well, yeah, so it's like you either have to look at like a super macro level to find like very basic commonalities,
Yeah.
or get super micro and be like, no, no, we're all like unique as snowflakes.
Yeah.
So
I feel like and that's also just my view on the world. I think that I see like everything in terms of like like a spectrum. I like was thinking
yeah.
about this earlier today. I was just like, yeah, every single thing is a spectrum. I was trying to work on a stand-up joke idea where it's just like, I think I want to start talking to more hateful bigots because I want to find like I want to understand how someone's brain works who doesn't question any of their beliefs or is just like so steadfast in their beliefs no matter like how stupid they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
just
just like
no news, no
yeah,
new
uh-huh.
evidence.
Like they just like believe like yeah, it's just like oh, nothing or just like oh, I believe this because I believe it or like because of like very simple facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the place where I want to go with it is like it's hard because most hateful bigots are dumb, and I want to talk to a smart one, and they're very hard to find.
I feels like the smart ones are like smart enough not to tell you
Yeah, to hide
of
it or to try. Yeah, I don't know.
or
Not
to
all of
like
them.
justify it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them try to justify it in like newfangled like pseudosciences and things like that, or
Yeah.
like it doesn't work. It always rears it's always very easily identifiable.
Right. 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 No. Yeah. So that there you go. Daryl Morey, the Spectrum King.
Um, but yeah, sure, like it would be very funny if they traded him now after like all the things he said after like
Yeah.
posting like showing him off in a Sixers uniform, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they traded Michael.
That's fair. That is fair. We've done worse. We have done worse.
Yeah, it feels like their second round pick could be a Paul Reed replacement.
Yeah, it'll be great when he goes to New Orleans
Yeah,
in the
part of the
BI
BI
package.
package. They do need a center.
They do
Utah tried to
badly.
sign him last offseason,
Yeah.
but it seems less likely that
Couldn't
Markkanen is
groom
on
him
the
there.
market. Could
Mhm.
yeah. Another thing we might get into later if we have the time. Um, doesn't seem like Markkanen's as likely to be moved, or Danny Ainge will want a massive trade package for him.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I think New York kind of ruined that, quite honestly.
should we just like I don't want to completely jump around, but I mean we could talk about it right now. The
Yeah.
Knicks, the Knicks, reunited the core four of the Villanova boys,
God.
and they way overpaid to do it.
Yeah. But
And
I mean,
they
big picture.
overpaid. They overpaid. I'm getting to it.
Okay. Okay.
uh, uh, super overpaid for Bridges, and they super overpaid in contract for OG to keep him around. Not super, but slightly overpaid for OG's contract. Are you questioning my words, or can you not hear me right now?
I just like big picture, right?
Yeah.
There's like what, a $3 million difference, I think, something like that, between like Barrett and Quickly and OG and Mikal Bridges, like big picture, net.
Yeah. But
So
that's because Bridges is on a friendlier contract, right?
sure. But like, did they overpay? Did
Here's
they?
no in if you're just looking at the here's the point that I was getting to. If you're just
Mm,
looking at both of these moves in a vacuum on their own, right?
mm,
Is paying $42.5 million for OG Anunoby an overpay? Yes.
yes.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Is giving up, what was it, five
Five.
unprotected picks and two swaps for a player who's never made an all-star team an overpay? Vastly and tremendously. But when you are in the position that the New York Knicks are in, you are in a position where you can do that and it doesn't completely hurt you because you've built the core, you have Brunson on a team friendly deal, you have a bunch of high level do your job role players around them, and
No.
you can do that to make the final moves of your rock. You know, you can overpay for those final moves. And like that's not something the Sixers are in a position to do because they only have two actual players rostered on their team right now.
Right.
So they don't have the luxury of doing that, and they also don't have the assets to do it, you know.
And in a way, it not only solidifies your team, but it makes the rest of the league, it makes it harder for the rest of the league to solidify their teams, because you now set the market rate
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
for what a guy is gonna cost.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah,
So
you kind of screw over teams like the Sixers
yeah.
who now have to give up probably more picks than they would to bring in a player like Ingram or
Al-
Markkinen.
Although you then see DeJounte Murray go for largely pennies on the dollar.
Well, it all
So
depends on the trade partner and what they, you know, what they have going for them and what they need and what position they're in, because I think that was
yeah.
like, I don't know.
But I
I
mean,
was
two firsts and Larry Nance?
two firsts and Larry Nance. But
That's
I mean,
that's not that much.
the Hawks really wanted to get rid of him, I guess. They chose Trae Young.
Sure, but I'm like, what I'm saying, like, DeJounte Murray and Mikal Bridges on paper. Who should get more?
I mean,
Who should
what did Murray get? What did the Hawks give up to get Murray like last year?
I'm sure
It was
they
more than two firsts, right?
yeah. I let me just double check. It feels no, because I feel like that was kind of cheap too. Let me double check. Yeah, it feels like he was cheap there too. Um, multiple future first round picks.
I'm trying to pull it up on Basketball Reference. They usually have like a transaction section. Traded by the Spurs with Jock Landale to the Hawks for Danilo, a 2023 first, a
Three
2025
firsts,
first, a 2026 first, and a 2027 first. Four firsts.
three in a swap.
23, 25,
26
26.
swap, and then 27. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, doesn't have it fully. Um,
Yeah. So three, I mean, yeah, the Hawks were the Hawks fucked up.
2027 swap, I think. Yeah. Condition. So the 2023 pick was Charlotte, CHO. Is that Charlotte?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Charlotte's via New York.
yeah. did not convey 2025 first round pick is Atlanta's own. 2026
Yeah.
first round pick. Oh, 2026 is the swap. 2027 first round pick is Atlanta's own. Okay.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. They're
oh,
all
because
Atlanta's.
it's gotta be all, yeah.
Yeah. You had to break up
The
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 years there.
the paragraph format on basketballreference.com was confusing me.
Yeah. So yeah, they fucked up, but I guess they realized quickly. So kudos to them for trying to get off it quickly, I guess.
Yeah, and get something back, not falling into that sunk cost.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take on the Knicks. They're in a position where they're able to overpay for something like that, and they were holding on to assets for a long time in case a quote unquote star became available, and they were probably looking for bigger names for a while. They were hoping maybe Paul George would come, or maybe Karl Anthony Towns would come to them, or I don't know, somebody else who has a little bit more name recognition than Bridges, but Bridges is a guy who can fit into any team and is definitely going to fit in with Tom Thibodeau's Knicks, with the Villanova Knicks, with the
Or he's
players
gonna
that
break
they
him.
have. Yeah. Yeah. With the players that they
Well,
have. So I don't know. The Knicks like shot up to like the second best odds to win the title. And like that seems a little much to me.
I mean, is there a Western Conference team that's better than them? Because they're still not the best team in the East. So,
I mean, the Nuggets.
mm, yeah,
The Nuggets are still better than the Nuggets are still. Here's why the basketball's so weird right now. I think did we talk about this last week? It's just like the Nuggets are still the best team in the NBA,
aren't
and they just ran. I I mean the Celtics are
mm,
pretty good and pretty deep, but
maybe
like
they're the most talented collection of players, but I certainly don't think they're the best team.
yeah, I mean they ran into a bad circumstance for themselves. And that's why that what they say, that's why you play the games, because
The problem with Phoenix is that they have a bunch of talent and no roles.
Phoenix, how'd we get on to Phoenix?
I thought you were saying the Suns.
Didn't I say the Nuggets? Did I
I
not say
okay.
the Denver
I'm sorry.
Nuggets?
I thought you said the Nuggets were good, and then Phoenix was also the best. And I was like,
you
wait, what?
know if that word came out of my mouth, I had a stroke, and I'm not denying that that's what I
No, no,
said.
no. I probably
Oh, okay.
misheard you.
No, yeah, the Nuggets and the Celtics, I'm saying, are
Yeah,
like, the
yeah,
Celtics are very good and very deep
yeah.
and a very well run organization, and it my hurts my heart every time I say something like that. But like here, like the Knicks are a team nobody's going to want to play. They're
Right.
going to, and I think they were already that this year.
Yeah. I mean,
If
we
they,
we talked about that for
yeah,
weeks leading up to the playoffs. Yeah.
but they're also a I don't think anybody's like, we can't beat them. I think you look at the
No,
Knicks. I think you look at the Knicks and you say, like, they're going to give us a hell of a series and we're going to be beat up at the end of it if we make it through. Um,
I still don't believe.
they're not like
And
world beaters or, like
yeah, and let me qualify this statement. Jalen Brunson's very good. I think for Jalen Brunson to play his best game, the Knicks can't play their best game. Because for Jalen Brunson to play his best game, he has to just go out and squeeze,
mhm.
like with no thought, with no
do,
conscience.
do you think that changes with Bridges as like a
No.
higher level second option than, you know?
Is he? Offensively, is he really like
I mean, he's better than
what does he do that what that Josh Hart? I guess he's a
that
better
Josh
shooter
Hart.
than Josh Hart,
Yeah, he's better than Josh Hart. He's
but
better.
like,
He's better than OG.
is he going to be better than Josh Hart was in the playoffs last year?
That is a good
You
question.
know, like,
Is he in general, like overall average over time, better than Josh Hart? Yeah, probably, but Josh Hart was playing lights out in the playoffs. So, yeah.
yeah, like how much better did they really get? It's not obviously
I mean a little
obviously
bit.
they got better. Obviously they
Yeah.
got better.
but how
But
much?
like, how
Yeah.
much better did they really get? They're better defensively, but they were already really good defensively.
I mean, it makes them a little bit deeper, you know. If they lose Hartenstein, that's going to hurt.
It doesn't sound like
Um,
they will, though.
I mean, it seems like, you know, I'm seeing that he's going to take less money to stay there, or
Yeah,
considering it at least. But then they'll probably lose Mitchell Robinson, right?
right. That's the thing, and it's
So
what
a little bit of
happens in those
front
non-Hartenstein
court depth.
minutes,
Yeah.
which only hurts them play. Well, I guess everybody in the East sort of has a big.
Yeah. But,
Yeah,
you know, yeah. Does it hurt him? Does it hurt him enough is
yeah,
the question, you
yeah.
know?
I'm like so. My view on Bridges is like definitely a guy I would love to have on my team, but I don't think he's a guy you need to game plan for.
Yeah.
Like he
Hmm.
doesn't make it harder to play against, but he's a guy you want on your team.
Yeah. Uh-huh. He could fit in on any team in the NBA, except for the Nets, who asked him to be their number one option and the best guy on their team.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
he can fit on any team as long as you're not trying to build around him. But as a finishing piece on this Knicks team, it's pretty solid, you know?
Sure. And especially given, that these guys know how to play with each other.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
yeah.
It's you know, it's not that much of a bummer. I know a lot of Sixers fans were bummed because they wanted to see him come back to Philadelphia, but at that price,
No.
they're not
No,
at the
thank you.
price, yeah, the price the Knicks pay. That's what a team like the Knicks can do, where they have most of their roster filled out and assets to go get somebody, you know, and the
Yeah.
Sixers options are more surprise. It's funny they have so much cap space, but their options to add people are kind of limited by that because they have to wait to use that cap space before they can fill out the edges of their team, you know, with,
Right.
you know, re-signing their own guys or bringing people in on minimum or small or mid-level exception contracts. So
Right.
it's like, you know, it's a golden handcuffs, but handcuffs nonetheless.
We got a ton of money and the worst time to spend it.
Speaking of, there's a rumor on Twitter via Reddit, I believe, that someone saw.
Hmm?
Uh, there is a rumor. We Are we here?
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
There's a rumor I saw on Twitter via Reddit that someone was on a plane bound to Los Angeles today with Daryl Morey. So you know, as long as that is true, he's at least trying to. That's got to be for Paul George, right? Who else
He's,
is
he's
he
going to get
visiting
is he going to get Paul George? If he's going to get Paul George, he's not flying business class. He's flying on the team plane with the rest of senior leadership.
with
Like,
everybody? Oh,
yeah.
Is that what it said that he
It
was
said
in
he was
like
in
first
business
class or
class.
business
Yeah.
class? Okay. Yeah, he's probably going team plane if he's going to get that's oh yeah, I didn't think about that. So
Yeah. That
it's probably not true then. Somebody probably didn't see him on a plane.
yeah. That's and even if they did, like, okay, you're going to see Tyrese working out,
I mean, why
like,
wouldn't he? Yeah, but I mean, at this point, why wouldn't he be meeting with free agents, you know? But like if it's Los Angeles, that could be with anybody, you know? It doesn't
sure, sure.
have to be Paul George. Everybody lives in Los Angeles in the off season
It's He's just flying into LAX instead of flying directly into SFO to go get Clay.
to get
That's what
Clay.
that tells me,
I mean, that
which
was
I'm
another,
I'm not in love with, but it's about 5 years too late.
yeah. It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting because it seems like that is an option, right? Play like
It seems like it's like probably
signing
plan
guys.
B right now.
I mean, yeah, like signing guys to like 1+1s if they can't get a big name and just like trying to trying to be competitive, but also trying to like hedge, do that like, oh, we're trying to competitive and maybe we can get people to outplay their contracts or like have one last flash of greatness. And if not,
Ugh.
we can try it again next year. Do I keep?
It's like I can't tell if it's me or you, but it just like keeps going in and out.
No, I think it's my mic. I gotta get a new cable for it. I think it's something wrong with the cable. Our
Yeah.
apologies to the listeners.
Sorry about that. Oh man, I'm sorry. I just saw a sad post 4 years ago. The 76ers young potential.
Who's in it? Oh, I think I saw this earlier. It's Furk.
Yeah.
It's um oh my
Furk at 22.
Shake.
Shake at
Sh
23.
Isn't it like Shayok too?
Yes, Mariel Shayak. Yes,
And
at
then
24, the old guy.
Zaire, right? That's what it
Zaire at
was.
21, Matisse at
Oh,
23,
Matisse is in there too. Yeah. Anybody else? Am I
and
missing
a
anyone?
guy who I just do not remember at all, Christ Kamaje at 23 as well.
No idea who that
Could not
is.
tell you who that was.
No, don't remember that guy at all. I
I'm
feel
usually
like,
pretty good with random Sixers.
that's something I want to talk about too, because I'm seeing a lot of people like, uh, happily ready to drive Paul Reed to the airport, because they drafted, a center in the second round and are getting all excited. How's this?
That works. That works.
Yeah, uh-huh. It's probably not as sharp, but at least it's not going to disconnect.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of Sixers fans post things like happily ready to get rid of Paul Reed because the Sixers drafted a guy, center in the second round with a lot of energy and a high motor
Yeah,
player. And it's
yeah.
like you can't just you can't just assume people are going to come in and be NBA ready right away. People are just like, oh, he's going to be. Oh, we don't need Paul Reed anymore, a guy who's been working on his game at a professional level for 3 or 4 years at this point.
Yeah, yeah,
Was the G League MVP, like
yeah, yeah.
Paul Reed was the G League MVP, and now you're like ready to get rid of him for a guy who just had a like pretty okay season at UCLA, but like has no offensive skills other than catching lobs, you know?
And I'm pretty sure he's only been playing basketball since like 17,
Yeah, and
maybe.
I'm not saying he won't eventually be good, but is he going to be ready to step in and play major minutes as your main backup center right away? That's
He was the pack whatever defensive player of the year last year. I'll give him that.
It's great. He looks great. He looks great on defense. He looks like he's high effort, high motor player, you know,
Yeah.
athletic. He's long, big
He's
wingspan.
he's gonna foul just like Paul Reed.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna make dumb plays. Yeah. And Paul Reed does this the same kind of stuff. He gets too excited. He gets all happy when he gets the ball. He's like, "Ooh, I have a chance to do something," and then he
Yeah.
like overexerts himself and looks a little silly.
Yeah, he's just like bigger, stronger Paul Reed, but without the experience.
Yeah, and I think part of the
Because Paul was
issue,
a 4 year guy, right?
where does he come out of DePaul? Or
That sounds right.
am I just saying
Uh,
DePaul because he's B-ball Paul? Is he B-ball Paul
DePaul.
from DePaul?
Um, no, he did go to DePaul.
Okay, well there you go.
But yeah, I
I
mean,
was like,
like,
that can't be right. I was like, there's no way he actually went to DePaul. That's got to be just my brain playing trick. Nope, he did.
we did it. We did it. Yeah, my thing is this: like, the Sixers have been obsessed with the backup center for as long as 10 years now. Um, if you're losing because of your backup center, you were never going to win, like unless it's like you are neck and neck with the other team. And I don't think we've ever been neck and neck with a team that we've got exposed in those non-Embiid minutes. I
I
think we've
mean,
just been worse.
some of the plus minus numbers are pretty crazy in playoff series, like Embiid on the floor, off the
Sure.
floor.
Sure, but that's Embiid dragging those teams to positive minutes while he's on the floor versus like the team truly being equal. Like that's all I'm saying is like if the backup center is costing you the series, you just weren't as good as the other team.
Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah.
It's not the backup center wasn't good enough. Your team
Your
wasn't good enough.
team as yes. Okay, I agree with that because there are other I don't think the solution to it is a backup center. It's just a deep
Yeah,
enough team that doesn't lose the game and instead Embiid's off the floor. Whether
right,
that's like and I don't think that's has to be a high level backup center. It's just a unit that doesn't
right,
blow it. Yeah.
right. But we've just been obsessed with that figure for a while. Like, oh, we if we just get Andre Drummond back, we'll be all right. Like, it's not
So many people think
that's
that.
that's not where
It's
that's not where we're losing.
yeah. So many people want
I mean,
want
listen,
that to happen.
would it be nice to have? Sure, but that's not moving the needle. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, get rid of Paul Reed. Sure.
I mean,
Whatever.
I'm not opposed to it if it's the right trade. I just like think that people's expectations on a second round
For sure.
on a second round draft pick coming in and being
You
a
can't
high
just
level.
slot him as a full carbon
Yeah.
copy.
I saw a tweet after the draft from enemy of the podcast, Kevin O'Connor, uh, who said who said that Bono will be the best backup center that Joel Embiid has ever had in his career. And that has got to be a bit at this point. It's got to be a bit. Every single season, whoever they bring in has been labeled he will be the best backup center of Embiid's career. When they brought in Dwight, when they brought in Drummond, uh, when they brought in Al Horford, when
Yeah.
Paul Reed, it's a constant rotating. This will be the best backup center, and
Yeah.
people keep getting tricked by it.
Right. Right. Because they think that that's going to do it. Like that's all we need.
Yeah, it's not just because they lose minutes when Embiid is out does not mean that the solution is a better backup center. If
Right.
that was it, it would be very easy to fix.
Yeah.
And also, you don't want to spend a lot of money on a backup center.
Right. Right. When your center is your best player, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Even when he's often hurt, like we've had plenty of talent there. It's the team around it was not ready to succeed. Um yeah, what's your worst case scenario for the Sixers offseason? Like is there a player like you just don't want to touch at all?
DeMar DeRozan, probably. But
Okay.
is DeMar DeRozan worse than Klay Thompson? I guess it depends
Yeah.
on how I guess it cool well, because you're gonna have to pay DeMar DeRozan more, right? And
I think you're probably paying him around the same thing.
yeah,
But
but DeMar's mid range game gets in the way of like where Embiid wants to work.
yeah,
Like
best case scenario, best performing DeMar kind of doesn't help. Best
yeah,
performing Klay definitely helps.
yeah, exactly. If you just ask Klay to
Mhm.
be a shooter and try a little bit on defense, not get completely cooked, but like
Yeah, just be like half of what you were.
yeah, exactly.
He's I said this the other day to my friends. He's at this point like super Danny Green. That's all you're asking him to be.
Yeah. I think I think worst case scenario is overpaying for the wrong guy just to do something, whether it's DeMar DeRozan, whether it's like bringing in Zach LaVine because you don't know what else to do. Um,
I'll
whether
tell you
it
my worst case is signing Eric Gordon.
just no matter what,
Just no matter what.
if we bring in Eric Gordon, something's gone wrong. That's what you're saying?
If we bring in Eric Gordon, fire Morey the next day because it's like, all right, you are just rehashing it every year. You gotta get off this old Rockets team. Like the minute I saw he was going to be available, I
That's
was like,
true. Yeah.
you got like, if he is anywhere in conversation, we're fucking it up.
Yeah. Yeah, no matter what his skill set is, just the fact that he is an old Rocket isn't a good sign.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's been in conversation like every offseason that Morey's been here.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, he's getting older and older every time. Give it up.
Let's see. Who are some other players that fit that mold? Some definitely stay away. Because like I could talk myself into Brandon Ingram. He's not my first choice, but I could talk myself into it. Even
At
if
this
they
point, I
like,
think I've talked him into being my first choice.
yeah, I mean, well, yeah. I mean, Paul George seems like a pipe dream and one that's not even all that great of it. One that's an iffy dream in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I could talk myself into bringing back Jimmy, but would mostly think that they probably are going to give up too much for him and that it like ultimately wouldn't be. But I could like,
And you'd like have to either max Jimmy or you're renting him.
yeah, and I don't love it. I don't love that move. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. What's best? What about best case scenario? Like best case
So,
realistic scenario.
somehow also Paul George, like
Paul George on a max plus the right pieces around it, right?
yeah, like
Paul,
okay.
yeah,
If it is there's scenarios where you can fit both PG. Actually, no. I think my best case scenario is KCP and Laurie. Because
KCP and Markkanen. Okay.
yeah, because there's scenarios where you can do both.
Well, you
And
could definitely do both because Markkanen's
yeah,
only making what 18 a year,
18, yeah.
and KCP is going to get
KCP, you're gonna have to pay.
20. KCP's going to get. I mean, he opted out of 16,
Yeah,
so 20,
yeah.
25 maybe.
Yeah.
So you could bring in both of those. You want to bring Seth Curry back?
I saw that. That was such an interesting announcement because they're like, we're declining him or whatever. He's becoming a free agent, but
But
the
he's
plan
probably
is
going to
to
stay
stay.
here. Yeah.
I mean, I'd take him back. We kind of already have him now. We have the better version in McCain, or not the better version necessarily, but we have the younger version in
Yeah.
McCain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think marketing to me is probably the
Here's
best case scenario just in terms of money and fit and age.
here's my best case scenario. Dream Sixers off season.
LeBron James.
Trade? No, a realistic one. Take Ben Simmons off of the Nets cap. Sign Markel Fultz. Bring back Dario Saric. Just go back. Take me back to 2017.
God. Ugh.
Take me back to 2017 when all was good and the future was bright.
You want to sign Jahlil Okafor too?
Hey, we need a backup center. Nerlens. Bring back Nerlens.
Oh,
Where is
God.
Nerlens these days?
I don't know that he's on the roster. I think he was in New York
Okafor is playing in
again.
like Mexico or something, right?
Didn't he end up back with the Knicks Nerlens that is for like a at the end of a musical chairs situation?
Let's see. We got
Oh, he's on. I'm sorry. Last play for the Nets, not the
Brooklyn.
Knicks.
Yeah. Knicks in 2021-22, Detroit in 22-23, Brooklyn also in 22-23. Did
Oh,
not
here's one I'll throw.
play. He was signed and waived by the Kings in 23-24, but did not play.
Here's what I'll throw at you. Do you take a flyer on James Wiseman? Because I can't imagine it'll cost anything.
Is he a free agent? Is he under contract? What's the deal?
He's a free agent.
That's interesting. If you need to fill a if you need to fill yes, you need to fill a roster spot and he's not going to cost any money and you could bring him in for nothing on just like a prove it deal.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a guy with a second overall pick pedigree kind of guy who like was in bad situations for himself and his skill set in like multiple places.
he's still only 23.
Yeah,
You
he's
know,
only 23. I mean, they brought in they did the same thing with Mo Bamba last year, you know?
Mhm.
So I don't know if he's going to be like your third or fourth rotation big. Why not? See if something happens, you know?
Right, right. It
Give
seems
him
like
a
a
give him a role and ask him to do that role.
yeah, yeah. That
You have
was one
any
I had my eye on.
you have any thoughts on speaking of guys in not a great situation for them with uh high level pedigrees, you have any thoughts on Edwards from Imhotep? You know anything about him?
I mean, he's so this is gonna sound strange, but just take the statement for what it is. He feels kind of similar to his college career feels kind of similar to Tatum in the sense that his game just didn't necessarily fit. Like he's got more of an NBA game than he does
Than he
than he
did a
did a
college
college
game.
game.
Yeah. Mhm.
Especially trying to fit in at Kentucky. That being said, I don't know if the ceiling's all that high.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if being back at home is going to push him to be his best self or just make him really comfortable to the point that he doesn't push himself, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's always the tough part about the hometown guy.
Do you remember him from, I guess, just last year,
Yeah, no,
2 years ago when he
he was
was,
nice. He was good. He
yeah,
was good. Yeah. But like, yeah, he was good. He was good, but he was kind of raw. Like he's a guy that like could get hot, but I don't know that the he's a high ceiling, mid level floor. You know?
okay, yeah. I was listening, I don't watch a whole lot of college basketball, so any of my like thoughts are just like formed by other things that I've heard, like, like reading or like listening to other podcasts or whatever. But I heard somebody today, forget what podcast it was on, but they were saying that they were surprised that, or like a lot of people in the Philly area, I think, who saw him play in person were pretty surprised by how highly ranked he was when he was in college, apparently, or when he was in high school.
Yeah,
Um, because like nationally he was getting a lot of attention, but I feel like, but this person was saying that like they didn't really see it when they like watched him in person. Like he would get away with like maybe out physicaling people or not
yeah,
like more physical, less skills, like using things like that. So like physically gifted but needs to develop skills or.
yeah. And you
And I
could
don't
like
know
kind
how
of
much
bully
of that
him.
is true. Yeah, exactly. Like he got away with like, yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I would agree with that assessment. Like you saw the talent, but yeah, I question what happens when it's not falling. What else are you offering?
Yeah.
When the jumper's not falling, what else are you offering?
But, you know, he's a guy they didn't even waste a draft pick on. They signed him to
Right.
a two-way deal, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. And he's a lefty, so the jumper is always going to look better.
yeah, I'm all for taking a flyer on, especially those guys who have those like high level prospect pedigrees that like for some reason didn't work out in college because maybe it wasn't the right fit. So all for it for James Wiseman as well,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
the opportunity is right and there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense.
Who do you see? You said Paul George could end up being the best case or worst case scenario. What are the pieces that fit around him well? You know, like what do you want? What would you want to fill out the roster with if they can bring Paul George in?
Guys that are gonna crash the boards. Paul George, that's always been the one hole for me in Paul George's game. Like he can rebound, but I feel like on a consistent, and maybe this is more the sports better in me than anything else. I feel like more often than not, I feel like I'm left wanting more from him on the glass. Um, so I would say guys that crash the boards, and that's been a hole in the Sixers game for quite some time. Just like the Eagles have corners that can't tackle, the Sixers don't crash the glass. So trying to fix that problem, I think would be good. And then yeah, just filling the space around them with willing shooters. They don't even have to necessarily be good, but just willing shooters. You know,
Yeah,
guys that if you give them an open shot, they will not think about it and just shoot the ball.
you know that's been the Sixers' Achilles heel for plenty of years.
Seems like that shouldn't be an issue, you know?
Yeah, but maybe their first round draft pick this year is a sign of new things to come.
He certainly shoots the ball. And I've been bemoaning the idea of Clay, but like Clay's gonna shoot it. He's gonna let that thing fly. So
Yeah, my issue there is like how much you're gonna have to pay him to come in.
right.
You
That's
know,
that's the thing. It's at the right place. It's not
because if
necessarily that the
he's
player is bad.
if he's gonna take less money, why wouldn't he just stay in Golden State? Unless they
Right.
like can't, unless they like can't do it for some reason, but
Well, because they have to
they
pay
could
Paul
always
George.
they could always move money around. I guess that would be the reason. Yeah, if they bring in
Yeah.
Paul George, they got to figure out what to do with Chris Paul first.
That's actually maybe worst case scenario.
Ooh, that's a pretty bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
is it worse? I mean, he's not.
It is because he's just not gonna he's gonna play 50 games. It at best.
Yeah, he's not going to
That's
do
why
enough to keep you where you need to be.
yeah, and what what are we gonna do? Have the entire backcourt under 6'4"? Like every option.
Just the smallest backcourt in history.
Yeah.
Well, Sunday, Keenan. Sunday, what is it? 6 p.m. Eastern time is when free agency starts officially, when players can sign.
Is it Sunday or is it Saturday?
Saturday, I believe, and
Is that
I
like
might
the
be wrong.
opt-in date?
No, you're allowed to start talking to players the day
Okay.
before, so they and then sign at 6 p.m. So so all of these midnight deals where it's just like, oh wow, they uh they got through all of that in 4 minutes. He signed his
Right,
contract
right,
at
right,
12:04 midnight
right.
after they were allowed to talk to him 4 minutes ago. That so all that like fake
Yeah,
posturing, not
this
really.
complicated plan is in place. That's crazy.
Yeah, so you are legally allowed to talk to players or whatever starting tomorrow, and then you could sign them starting Sunday. I can't believe it's NBA season, man.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
It's all packed like right on the end of the finals too. I feel like there used to be
Mhm.
like didn't the draft used to be in like August, like later
It
in the
does feel
summer?
like it used to be a little later. I don't know about August because summer league was still there, but
I don't
it
know if
just
it's
felt
like
like it
a
was.
I don't know if it's like a perception of time thing from when I was younger or if it really was spaced out more.
It might just be like also I'm not realizing that Monday is July.
Yeah.
It's not as early as we think it is. Here, last random question: where does PJ Sucker end up?
Didn't he re-sign with the Clippers? Or did
Well, he
he
opted in. He opted in, but he has explicitly not wanted to be there forever. I think that was just I want to make sure I have a job,
Yeah.
so like
Keep
I'm
these
gonna opt
paychecks
in.
coming in.
Yeah, but like y'all, I still want y'all to move me. Um, I don't know.
I mean, it's got to be. I'll probably go to a contender, like a team who needs
And
a
that's
piece, trying to,
that's 11.5 mil. It's not like they really want. I'm sure they don't want to just eat that. So
yeah.
maybe he goes in a.
I don't know who wants
Maybe
to
he
take
goes
him
with
on.
PG.
Oh, a trade, yeah, and a trade to Golden State or
Yeah,
wherever. It's really that's what it's looking like, right? If Paul
I
George
think
if
so.
Paul
If he
George
moves,
opts
yeah,
in, he's going to Golden State. If he leaves, maybe the Sixers, unless he wants to go to Orlando or Detroit.
yeah.
What if
Like
he just goes to Detroit? That's the funniest possible offseason. He just signs with Detroit.
so you know what? I'm going back to the NBA Central
Speaking of
where I
Detroit,
where I cut my teeth. Yeah.
speaking of Detroit, Keenan,
Mhm.
we know what the worst case scenario is for the Sixers.
Re-signing Tobias?
Yeah, that's worst case offseason.
Is that the worst case scenario? That's the crazy part. Is that the worst case scenario?
I mean, how much are we paying them?
It all comes down to
What would
money.
you if to buy what's the
Up
number?
to 28 million. I would pay him up to 28 million.
28
Up to 28 million dollars.
on like a full 45-year contract?
Oh no, like two.
Okay.
Maybe one and one.
Like a 1+1 team
Yeah.
option second
Team option,
season.
yeah. 100% team option, yeah. I'd pay him up to 25.
I'm not going to allow this podcast to end by us talking ourselves into re-signing Tobias Harris. But that would be the funniest part. Like trading for BI and then re-signing Tobias, like somehow fitting in, you know.
God. Yeah, I don't know.
I
Ugh.
mean, the problem with Tobias was always how much money he was making and the fact that he was handcuffing the team.
It's I just I've talked myself into BI, right? Like I've talked myself into this being okay with this.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, what does that fit look like? He's not a particularly great shooter from three, nor does he shoot the ball from three all that much. 3.8 attempts last year. I
Ingram,
guess he had, yeah,
only
from three.
3.8 per game?
Yeah.
That seems low.
Career highs in 2020 and 2021 of six, but like
He
it's
shoots
gone
what, like
down the last few.
35? What is he, like a 35% three-point shooter?
Last year was 35.5. Career 36.
Yeah. Which is good, not great.
It's league. He's a league average 3-point shooter. He's a league average free throw shooter. He's scored a good amount, but like his scoring has gone. His scoring took a huge drop last year. Um,
I mean,
Oddly enough, his minutes have gone down every year. Like,
we talked over this, last week, and it's like I don't feel great about it, but if the change of scenery is what he needs, I'll gladly be like, okay, great. But I don't feel great about that being the
the one other rumor, if we're talking reuniting the old process, have you heard this Jeremy Grant rumor?
Oh yeah, apparently yeah, he's another player like
That
making
might be
noise in
worst
terms.
case. That might be worst case for me
I mean,
because of how much it would cost.
if it was just Jeremy Grant, oh, that's rough,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because he's on a huge deal too, and he's got like years left on.
Although, to be honest, on paper,
He's not a bad player.
21 a game last year, shot 40% from three,
He's 30
does not
years old.
rebound well. 30 years old, doesn't rebound well for his size. Um,
Yeah,
but
doesn't really want to rebound. Doesn't really play around the rim to rebound, you know?
yeah, but like, he can play D.
He can.
He does that. He does everything else.
You know, his contract's not, I mean, he's signed through 27, 28, and he's making 29 million next year, 32, 34, 36.
Actually,
So
that's not terrible.
he's a player you could bring him in with someone else if it was the right other someone else.
Hmm. All right, maybe I talked myself into Jeremy Grant.
Can they
Maybe you
bring in
talked me
him
into
and
Jeremy Grant.
can they bring in him and BI?
That's a good question.
It's
I don't
very
know that you would have.
close.
I think you could fit it money wise. I don't know if you could do it asset wise.
Yeah. They don't have
You
enough
know?
to trade for both. And at this
Yeah.
point, I don't think they have enough to trade, our dreams last week of Ingram and Markkanen, I think that's out the window as well. I mean,
Yeah.
New Orleans, New Orleans might be just in like we got to get rid. Like that's the one hope that if they are going to trade for BI, the price is a little bit down because they
Yeah.
just got to move him, and they
Yeah.
can maybe take advantage of that. Um, I I don't think so. 24. So BI's on 36 next year, and
You could
so
do like
that's
Jeremy Grant and CJ.
yeah. Could you? How much does
Think.
CJ make?
I don't think CJ's making crazy money. I think he's overpaid, but I don't think he's making crazy money.
Yeah, but it's probably close to like 30 a year. I would have to think just because of his like
Yeah, 33 is
33.
palatable.
Yeah, but
Oh, and that's yeah, it's 33 next year and then 30 the following.
oh, so it goes down.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could bring both of those guys in with the cap space that they have. Like the Sixers only have like up to 60 in cap space, I think.
Up to 60, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
like 66 or 64 or whatever, between the
Yeah.
two of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think like moving Paul Reed helps them with that.
Not particularly, no.
You know, I don't know if the future's as bright as we thought it might be.
I think we knew that it wasn't that bright though. That's the thing. We knew coming into this offseason, like there really wasn't
Yeah,
a
it's not like
crazy
they had
prize.
it's not a crazy prize, and like talking crazy prizes into coming to Philadelphia hasn't really worked outside of baseball and sometimes football.
Right.
You know,
Right. Like DeMar DeRozan is the best option. And it's not a good fit at all.
maybe Daryl Morey's flying to Los Angeles to make up with James Harden. Where does that land in worst case scenario
I
offseason
mean,
scheming?
he's so here's the thing. It's not the worst.
I don't. I'd rather bring him back than DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, it's not the worst. It would never happen, but it's not the worst. And well, actually, no, I take that back. The money that you would have to pay him to do it, I think,
Wouldn't be
would
worth.
be the
Yeah, you'd have
worst.
to give him like a 5-year max
Yeah,
or whatever. Is it 5 or 4 anymore? I think it's 4. You
I
have to
think it's
give him like a
4.
4-year absolute max to bring.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine.
Like our big offseason move is going to be re-signing Kelly Oubre at this point, which like not the worst thing in the world, but we're running out of people. We can go get KCP. That might be our big move.
Yeah, which is like KCP's great and exciting as a secondary move, but as a big move,
No.
yeah.
Did
I mean,
Malik Beasley resign anywhere? Like
I,
that's a point where we're at, I think.
I think that's interesting to talk because like at that point, like if like KCP is the only player that they can bring in, right?
Mhm.
Then the basic like it turns into like basically running it back. Like Tobias is gone, but then they like at that point are they like okay, we're gonna re-sign just everybody that we can, like
Well, I think you got to then play like the
Kelly,
margin game.
Kelly and Nico and Lowry
Do you
and
bring back Buddy Hield?
Buddy He yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like that comes on the table
Campaign.
then. Like
Yeah.
if you can't get anybody new or like you just get like one marginal piece new, then
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, okay, we're gonna bring everybody back.
Yeah. At that point, it just becomes we're upgrading Toby. Slight upgrade on Toby,
Yeah.
but we're running it back.
That is that the worst that might be worst case scenario.
So
I think we just
Toby in
discovered
the
it.
average. We're trying to find Toby in the aggregate.
Yeah.
That's that's not good.
We're trying to moneyball Tobias Harris. Oh
That's
no.
not good. That's not good.
Yeah. We're
Oof.
gonna start we're gonna start with his brother.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna
Yikes.
do it. I think that nightmare scenario is gonna do it for this week's episode. Uh like we said at the top, uh drop a 5-star rating and review and any questions or topics that you want to see us write about on the Substack. Hit us up on email stretch4pod@gmail.com. Leave a comment on the Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. Answer the poll question with what you want us to talk about, or hit us up personally. Just send us a personal message if you know our contact information with questions, suggestions, things you want us to write or talk about on the Substack, and we will give you more hoops, hip hop, culture, and life all week long. And if you don't, you're just stuck to one podcast a week, and because we're not going to come up with things on our own. We have lives.